You are like walking down a really crowded city street, right in the peak of rush hour.
Oh, the worst time to be out.
Exactly. And there is this weird, almost imperceptible psychological trick that your brain starts playing on you. You look around at the hundreds of people waiting for the crosswalk, and everyone is staring down at the glowing rectangles of their phones.
Yeah, holding like slight variations of the exact same paper coffee cup.
Right, wearing slight variations of the exact same dark winter coat. And in that moment, the crowd kind of stops being a collection of individual humans. It just blurs into this single moving organism.
Which, I mean, is a biological necessity.
Wait, a necessity? How so?
Well, evolutionary anthropologists often point to concepts like Dunbar's number. It basically suggests that the human brain is really only wired to maintain about 150 stable, fully realized social relationships.
Oh, wow. Only 150. That's not a lot.
Right. So processing every single person in a crowd of thousands as an individual with a complex inner life, a childhood, unique anxieties, that would require a catastrophic amount of cognitive energy.
Your brain would just short circuit?
Exactly. We rely on mental shortcuts just to walk down the street without becoming entirely paralyzed by empathy overload.
Well, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at what happens when that harmless biological shortcut gets weaponized.
Yeah, it takes a really dark turn.
It really does.
Yeah.
Suddenly, looking around that crowded street and seeing people follow the same routine isn't just a quirk of urban life or, cognitive load.
Yeah.
It becomes a diagnosis.
It becomes supposed proof that the people around you aren't actually real at all.
We've got a fascinating stack of sources today, specifically an article tracing the origins of a very specific three-letter acronym that you have almost certainly heard, which is NPC.
Oh, absolutely. It's everywhere now.
Our mission today is to trace its bizarre journey from the basement tables of 1970s role-playing games all the way to the front lines of modern internet culture.
It is quite the ride.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this. Because before the internet twisted this acronym into an insult, it actually had a very functional, highly respected meaning, right?
Yeah, the foundational architecture of this term really requires us to look at 1974.
Okay, 1974.
That is the year the original Dungeons & Dragons handbook debuted. And that introduced the concept of the non-player character, or NPC.
Non-player character, got it.
Right. So in these sprawling, imaginative role-playing games, the people sitting around the table create their own hero personas to go on quests. But the person running the game master, needs a way to populate the world.
Right, because a fantasy universe with just 4 heroes wandering around a completely empty void is going to lose its appeal in about 10 minutes.
Exactly. You need a world that feels lived in.
Which means you need people to populate the taverns, guard the castle gates, maybe sell the magical sword.
Yeah, and those are the NPCs. They are the characters not controlled by the players. They are the background architecture of the fictional society.
Making the world feel real.
Right. The game designers understood a fundamental rule of storytelling. For a world to have any real stakes, the people living in it have to matter. The illusion of reality just shatters if the background characters are just cardboard cutouts.
Which brings us to the detail from that original 1974 handbook that absolutely leaped off the page in our source material today.
Oh, I love this part.
It's so good. The game didn't just suggest you treat these background characters nicely. It actually codified incredibly strict labor laws for interacting with them.
Real labor laws in a fantasy game.
Yes. The handbook explicitly stated that if a player wanted to enlist the help of a non-player character, that NPC had to be paid a regular fair wage. They had to be protected from excessive dangers. And, get this, if you sent them into a particularly risky situation, you were required to give them a bonus.
The mechanics of the game actively punished you if you viewed them as disposable tools. Treat an NPC poorly, and the game master would ensure they betrayed you.
Or abandon the quest entirely.
Right, or demanded more money. The game basically forced players to practice a kind of simulated empathy.
It's like the early D&D universe had this heavily unionized guild of movie extras with ironclad contracts. Like, you want me to carry your flaming sword through the goblin cave while you fight the dragon?
No.
Yeah, that is going to be time and a half plus hazard pay, and I get a cut of the treasure.
That's exactly how it worked. Game designers knew that interacting meaningfully with the mundane elements of a fantasy world is what makes the heroic elements feel earned.
Right.
And as video games exploded in popularity over the following decades, this concept seamlessly transferred into the digital realm. Every village in games like Skyrim or The Legend of Zelda had these programmed characters.
Operating on specific dialogue loops, waiting to offer the player a quest.
Or a piece of lore, yeah.
Wait, so if these characters were the fiercely protected, highly valued glue holding the entire game's ecosystem together, how on earth did the acronym become a devastating insult? Who flipped the script?
Well, the shift from virtual fantasy worlds to real-world sociological judgments happened in a very specific incubator. We have to look toward the early 2010s.
Okay, fast forwarding a bit.
Right.
All right.
Centering on a California-based online subculture known as the Less Wrong community.
Less wrong.
Yeah, this was a forum adjacent to the Silicon Valley tech sphere. It was populated by people deeply interested in artificial intelligence, philosophy, cognitive science.
And their primary obsession was the concept of extreme rationality.
Exactly. Their entire philosophical framework was built around eradicating human cognitive biases. They wanted to view the world, process complex information, and make decisions with absolute computer-like objective logic.
Pure logic.
The pursuit of rationality became the highest possible virtue for them.
It reminds me of someone trying to uninstall the operating system of their own humanity, like stripping away all the emotional impulses, the messy social quirks, the irrational loyalties, just so their processing speed can run a fraction of a second faster.
That's a great way to put it.
But, I mean, anyone who works with computers knows that when you delete the foundational operating system, the machine eventually just crashes.
Well, what's fascinating here is the psychological side effect of that pursuit.
Oh.
Yeah, when you spend all your time trying to elevate yourself into the ultimate rational actor, the one person who is truly awake, analyzing every single choice with pure logic, you inevitably start looking down on people who aren't doing that.
Right, you get an ego about it.
Exactly. The Less Wrong community began looking at average people navigating everyday life. People following fashion trends, adopting conventional political views, working standard corporate jobs. And they needed a vocabulary to describe them.
So they reached into gaming culture and pulled out NPC.
Yes. They applied it to real, living people whom they perceived as running on pre-programmed societal software.
Wow.
In their eyes, an average person wasn't making independent choices. They were just executing a script handed to them by culture or the media or their parents.
The irony is just staggering. A community obsessed with elevating human intelligence and potential ends up adopting a term for a programmed piece of code to distance themselves from anyone who doesn't share their worldview.
Yeah, it's a framework that inherently strips the humanity away from the subject.
And this intellectual elitism did not go unnoticed. Our source highlights a 2016 essay by a writer named Maciej Czegowski.
Right, he observed this subculture and explicitly called out the danger of this terminology.
He recognized that labeling someone an NPC isn't just calling them boring. It is a fundamental denial of their internal reality. He famously stated that using the term this way represented a horrible way to look at the world.
Because the moment you categorize someone as an NPC, you are stating as a matter of fact that their inner life simply does not exist.
Exactly. You are claiming they don't experience existential dread at 3 a.m. They don't feel the sudden rush of joy when a certain song plays. They don't have complex motivations.
They are just empty lines of code designed to fill up the background of your much more important life.
But, I mean, an idea born in a niche rationalist forum needs an accelerant to become a piece of global internet slang, right? It needs a mechanism to jump out of deep philosophical debates and into the mainstream consciousness.
And in the digital age, that accelerant is always meme culture.
Always. Memes compress incredibly complex, often controversial philosophies into a single, highly transmissible image or joke.
The incubator for this particular meme was the anonymous message board 4chan, specifically around the year 2016.
Okay, so we're in 2016 now.
A post went wildly viral on the forum that didn't just use the word NPC. It built an entire bizarre pseudo-spiritual mythology around it.
Pseudo-spiritual, how so?
The theory presented by this anonymous poster was essentially a brutal demographic take on solipsism and reincarnation. They posited that planet Earth only possesses a fixed, finite quantity of human souls.
Oh boy.
And these souls continuously cycle through reincarnation over the millennia.
Which honestly sounds like standard, harmless New Age philosophy until you introduce math into the equation.
Right. The poster applied a ruthless logic. They said, look at the explosive rate of human population growth over the last century.
The math doesn't add up.
Exactly. If the number of souls is fixed, but the population is quadrupled, the math breaks down. Therefore, the poster concluded, the overwhelming majority of people currently walking the earth simply do not have souls.
That is so dark.
The phrase used in the original post described these extra people as soulless walking flesh piles.
Here's where it gets really interesting in a deeply grim way. Calling someone a soulless walking flesh pile is shocking, but it's the psychological utility of this theory that made it spread. The poster claimed that these soulless beings instinctively know they are empty. So they autonomously follow groupthink, parrot mainstream opinions, and obsess over social trends purely to camouflage themselves and appear convincingly human.
Notice the mechanism at play here. This theory provides a perfectly insulated psychological shield for anyone who feels alienated by society.
Oh, right.
If the majority of the world disagrees with your worldview, or if people are following a trend you just don't understand, you no longer have to question if maybe your own views are flawed.
You don't have to engage with their arguments at all.
Exactly. You just categorize them as soulless entities mimicking the herd.
It completely overrides the analytical brain. But a long paragraph on a fringe message board isn't enough to change the global lexicon. Visual shorthand is the final key.
And that arrived later in 2016 with the creation of the NPC Wojak meme.
The Wojak meme format. For context, this started as a simple, crudely drawn black and white face used on forums to express various relatable emotions, right? Like sadness, anger, loneliness.
Yeah, but the community altered this familiar template to perfectly capture the 4chan flesh pile theory.
They colored the face entirely gray. They erased all the expressive features, leaving just a completely blank, totally expressionless face with two rigid geometric triangles for eyes.
And a straight flat line for a mouth.
It's eerie.
The visual impact of that gray face is the primary reason the insult gained such immense traction. It instantly communicates an absence of humanity.
When you are arguing with someone in a comment section, and instead of typing out a counter-argument, you just reply with that gray blank face, you are deploying a rhetorical nuclear bomb.
Yeah, you are telling the audience that the person you are arguing with isn't a real person at all. They're merely a broken record reciting pre-programmed dialogue.
Which brings us to how this evolved beyond bizarre internet lore and became a heavily utilized rhetorical weapon. By 2018, the NPC meme had exploded across various political echo chambers.
Yeah, and our source points out how it was deployed aggressively in political context, specifically to shut down debate.
Now, we really want to make it clear to you listening. We are absolutely not taking a side here or endorsing these views. We are just impartially reporting on the content provided in our sources and observing this online behavior.
Absolutely. It is crucial to understand that this tactic isn't confined to one specific ideology anyway. It became a universal defense mechanism for any group that felt frustrated by opposition.
From all sides.
Yes. Whether it was deployed by counterculture internet groups against the mainstream, or by mainstream voices dismissing fringe elements, the underlying mechanism is identical.
Because engaging in genuine debate is cognitively taxing.
It really is. It requires you to absorb opposing evidence, experience cognitive dissonance, and potentially compromise.
But if you universally label the opposition as NPCs, you absolve yourself of the responsibility to engage. You invalidate their very right to participate in the marketplace of ideas.
You are declaring that their beliefs aren't the result of lived experience or reasoning, but simply a software update they downloaded from their chosen media ecosystem.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the critics who ring alarm bells about this slang are identifying a profound historical pattern.
Yeah, dehumanization is rarely a sudden event. It is a gradual linguistic process.
It's exactly. History repeatedly demonstrates that the prerequisite for treating a group of people with hostility is first convincing yourself that they lack full personhood.
Reducing a human being, someone who has a family, experiences grief, holds genuine convictions, to a gray, expressionless cartoon meme effectively bypasses the empathy centers of the brain.
You are no longer navigating a complex society of peers. You are just swatting away digital annoyances blocking your path.
And the most darkly humorous observation in the source material highlights the impenetrable fortress built around this insult.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Right. When sociologists, journalists, or everyday users point out that the term is fundamentally dehumanizing and dangerous, the communities who utilize the insult don't engage with the criticism at all.
They just deploy the gray face meme again.
Exactly.
They gleefully call the critic an NPC, creating this perfect, closed-loop system of dismissal.
The logic is entirely circular. Like, of course you think the term is dehumanizing. Your societal programming is forcing you to say that to defend the system.
It makes self-reflection or growth within those online spaces virtually impossible. It is the ultimate trump card for avoiding accountability.
You press a button, drop the meme, and walk away feeling intellectually victorious without having actually defended your own ideas.
Today, the term has bled so far out of its original philosophical and political incubators that it has become a casual, everyday insult, especially among teenagers.
Oh, yeah. It is routinely used in high school hallways to describe someone who walks too slowly, someone who wears generic sneakers, or someone who just gives a boring answer in class.
It has basically become a catch-all synonym for irrelevant.
The irony being, of course, that using a globally viral meme to call someone else unoriginal is in itself a highly unoriginal programmed behavior.
Right. Picking up slang from your social group is the most normal, human, societal software action possible.
Completely normal.
So what does this all mean? We have journeyed from the meticulous labor laws of a 1970s tabletop fantasy game through the hyper-rational forums trying to uninstall human emotion, past the grim 4chan theories of fixed souls, all the way to a weaponized gray face used to silence political debate.
The journey reveals how desperate we are to find simple explanations for a profoundly complicated, often overwhelming world of competing ideas.
If you are listening to this, and you ever find yourself on the receiving end of the NPC insult, whether in a heated online debate or from a teenager in your living room, our source material actually provides the ultimate historically accurate comeback.
It really does. You need to remind them of the true foundational lore of the term.
In the actual architecture of gaming, the non-player characters are the entities holding all the functional power.
Exactly. They possess the vital lore of the universe.
They hold the keys to the locked doors.
They are the ones who present the quests that give the hero's journey any actual purpose or direction.
Without the NPCs providing context and challenge, the supposedly important main character is just wandering around an empty digital field, swinging a sword at nothing, achieving absolutely zero progression.
The background characters are the fabric of reality.
And most importantly, according to the sacred original text of the 1974 handbook, if the supposed hero wants to interact with you, they are required by the laws of the universe to compensate you fairly for your time.
Yes.
So the next time someone calls you an NPC, just hold out your hand and demand your hazard pay.
It is the perfect way to short-circuit the insult. But, stepping back from the internet vernacular, the entire premise of the NPC concept forces us to confront a deeper philosophical reality.
How so?
The insult relies entirely on main character syndrome, the arrogant assumption that the person deploying the term is the sole protagonist of reality. However, human psychology dictates that every single person is locked behind their own eyes. We only have access to a first-person camera.
Right. We all naturally view ourselves as the main character of our own lives.
Which means, by sheer structural definition, every single person we interact with is technically an NPC in our specific story, just as we are an NPC in theirs.
That's a huge shift in perspective.
It is. The crucial difference is how we choose to treat that reality. Perhaps the true mark of high-level intelligence and rational thinking isn't loudly proving to everyone on an internet forum that you are the sole conscious protagonist.
Yeah.
Perhaps true intellect is possessing the radical, difficult empathy required to look at the crowd and recognize that all those background characters have incredibly complex, hidden storylines of their own, full of triumphs and tragedies you will never see.
So the next time you're walking down that crowded city street during rush hour, and you see that sea of anonymous people staring at their phones in their matching winter coats, maybe don't assume they were just running a mindless script.
No, it's definitely not.
Maybe just assume they are on a very specific, complicated quest that you haven't unlocked yet.